Hello and welcome. We are going over the operation of the Hiby R1 for the quantum resonance crystal bed. The Hiby R1 is the media player you see here. When you get this unit, some of the accessories will be in this foam pouch, like the certificate of authenticity, a screen protector, the wrist strap, operating guide, and the power cable is going to be in a separate bag. So when we do a quick look around this, you have the back, you can peel this off and it just shows you that it's going to be the Hiby. The left side will have a spot where you can connect this onto here through the two small loops. The top is empty. The right side has power and then a multi-controller for up and down on volume. By the way, you're going to leave volume at full on the media player. And then finally pause and then reverse. So the bottom, how could I forget? The bottom has your mini SD card, and you push in to eject it and then push in again to put it back in. The power slot for the USB-C cable, and then finally the 3.5 millimeter input for typically headphones, but what it's going to do is go into the control box in the only spot available on the control box. So let's go ahead and power this up. I already took the liberty and powered it up, so it's going to come up really quickly, but it typically takes about 5 seconds. So, one push of the button. Let's get this in a little bit closer. And what we have is top going down, music, stream media, wireless, books, system, about. When you push the about, it just tells you that what it is. System gives you a whole list of things at which we've already set up most of these for you. There's some small adjustments that you can make if you want to adjust the language, sure. Backlight settings, that will turn off basically the light on the system after 80 seconds. Or if you would rather have this plugged in all the time through your power cord, you can go ahead and set that to stay on all the time. We have theme color, so we can change the theme color. And what that will do is show up in the theme of green right now. Font size, you can do big or small. We have big right now. USB working mode, we're going to leave that alone. That is set to auto. Time settings, idle shutdown. We don't play with that. It basically will shut down the unit after X amount of time when you're not using it. If it's on pause, after X amount of time, it'll shut down. If you want to turn it on, you can go ahead and do that and adjust the timing on it. Notice how I'm swiping to get it back. You can do swipe or you can do the top left. Sleep shutdown, please don't use that. It will actually shut down the unit regardless of what's going on after an X amount of time. So leave that off. Battery percentage is just on the top, shows you what your battery percentage is. See how that went away in the top right? Inline remote, we don't use one. LED indicator, that's for that little blue light right there. And that changes color based off of what's going on, whether it's playing, paused, the battery indicator, things like that. Shortcut menu, we'll get into that in a little bit, but that's a way that you can reprogram the shortcut menu to different types of categories. Screensaver settings. If you want to do a screensaver, you can do that. I have it turned off, but you can go to album cover or a dynamic cover. Feel free to play around with that. Factory restore settings, please don't touch that. Firmware update, you don't need to touch that either. Certificate information just tells you what it is. Books, that's for if you're reading. Or audiobooks, we don't have those. Wireless, that is to set up Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. DLNA is between your phone and this unit. There's a way to connect your phone to this so it will mimic the controls on this. So you could be sitting somewhere else and push play and pause and things like that. I prefer not to use things like that when I'm dealing with clients. You can, in your own time, but if it ever stops working or fritzes out and a client's on the bed, it's really disruptive. You can import music this way. You can also do AirPlay to send the music. So there's a few different ways to do these things. Streaming media, there's two different sources, QBuzz and Tidal. We don't use either. Everything's baked into the phone, or sorry, the media player. Finally, the music itself. So with music itself, we have a few different options to access the music. We can do it by album artists, genres, artist, albums, files, and all. I always go to files. And then I press SD card. And then it's broken down into file folders, which is much easier to figure out for me. Body field sound healing has a multitude of files. And if you were to look those up individually, it would get really confusing. David Gibson has 3 or 4 of them, you know. Inner Lotus music, there's a lot in here. So you wouldn't want to look at things through all and try to figure out where those are. There's 150 songs in here. Same thing with albums. Sometimes the albums aren't completely up to date, so you don't get what you want. Unknown, there's a lot of stuff in unknown. So that's why we look through files to get things. SD card. By the way, if I was to push that OTG, what's that? Please connect USB storage. That's what that is. So you can only push this one. And then you can look into things like quantum resonance has a few different files within files. These are all different ones. We'll get into these in a little bit. But let's go back to another setting. So at the top of music, we have the, excuse me while I grab something a little bit smaller than my finger to point with. So at the top of music, we have search, we have a file folder, and then we have the info icon. And what it can do is, let's see if I can get this simpler for you. When we go into music, we can then access that information where it tells you, do you want your equalizer on, which is MSEB? Do you want to update your database? Where it'll read the SD card. The only reason you'd want to do that is if you put in a new SD card. And again, I'm swiping to the left to get back to that. Music update mode, we can do automatic, so every time you put in the SD card, it'll read it. That's the way we have it set right now. Play mode, you can do play playlist, loop track, shuffle, or loop list. And we have it just on loop track, so it'll keep playing the same track over and over. So you would need to go in and shift that over to playlist if you were to do something like that. If you wanted to play something longer, let's say you're in a song that's only 3 minutes long and you wanted to go to the next track, you would have to go to, sensitive fingers. You would have to go into play mode and just do play playlist. DSD output mode, just leave it on, PCM. It actually won't even let me, it's kind of grayed out right now, so it won't even let me do it. Gain compensation will raise the volume internally of the unit. Resume, play from last track. You can do position, track, or none. I like to do track because when I go and turn this back on, it'll just start playing from my last track that I did, which is great. Sound field is sound expansion. So when you bring it all the way over to 3, it'll make it sound more airy. It's something you can play with on your own. Maximum digital volume output. We don't need to adjust that. Max volume, we have it set to 54, which is the max. That's what we want. fixed power on volume. We have it set to maximum. So basically, the power on volume is going to be at the highest. That's exactly what we want. We don't do any crossfade. We don't. The gain is going to be on high, so that'll give us the most amount of volume. Replay gain, none. Balance, none. Playthrough folders, yeah, that's a great idea. Playthrough albums, absolutely. Repeat function, yes. Speed play allows it to go faster, so you can access something quicker. Maybe the middle of a song. Maybe you want to check the overall volume of a song, so you do speed play to get it somewhere in the middle. Auto slide to playback interface. Let's push yes. And now we have gone out of that one right there in the top right. And now let's go to the next one, which is a folder with a little star on it. You can do favorites folder, recents folder, playlist folder, or recently added. Really handy to get to something quickly. In my favorites, I have chakra sweep and brain. So I can just push that and it'll go straight to chakra sweep and brain. See the little red heart? That's how you get it to save it. You can also go down here to the three dots and add it to a favorite or create your own playlist. The three lines, you see how I push that? It's now circular, so it's going to play everything in that folder. It's just, there's a 1, so it'll just play this song over and over, and this will randomize. So I typically like to keep it on 1, so it just plays through that song over and over, and then I dictate when I'm going to change something up. You can also take your slider and move it quickly halfway through the song. Very useful, again, if you want to check the overall volume of a song for a client before they get on the system. You can go on to the crystal bed, put the headphones on, move the slider all the way, like halfway through the song, get a feel for the vibrations and the sound and adjust them as needed. Do that. You can pause it, bring it back to the beginning, get it ready for the client. And typically what I do is I will just let it play and then walk away from it, because what happens is if you have it set to shut down during idle, that's idle, and that's idle, and it'll shut down after 10 minutes if you have that setting turned on. So you can bypass that by just letting it play, or if you have that setting turned off in the beginning menu like we showed you earlier, you don't have to. So what happens if I swipe right? Nothing. What happens if I swipe left? It brings me back to the very root menu that we were in. Now if I swipe right, it'll bring me immediately to the song that I'm playing. Swiping left brings me to the root. Swiping right brings me to the song. Let's say I'm in music. That's one tree level up. If I swipe, it'll bring me back to the music. So really helpful. If you want to get to your music quickly, swipe right. If you want to get back, swipe left. When I swipe up to down, it brings up my shortcut menu, which will also gain access to the music, where I can start and stop it. But these are the pre-programmed ones that are like turning on and off your equalizer. That changes the overall volume of the system from low to high. I leave it on high. That will do AirPlay. I have nothing else I can put in there, so I just leave it at that. And that's to connect to a phone, so you can do wireless communication with it. That is really the long and short of it. Enjoy it, learn it. Here, let's get to some music. And I'm going to bring this to the middle. So when I press and hold, see how I went all the way back really quickly? And this one, when I'm pressing, it stops and starts. So that's why you don't want these buttons active when the screen's turned off, because you may pick it up, push this, and all of a sudden the music's off. You're like, oh God. Here's the volume. Make sure the volume's turned all the way up. Extended exposure to volume will be bad. Yes, I understand, but I still want it up. So that will give you maximum volume. Always check your volume on the music player. If it feels like your crystal bed is not playing loud enough, it's because your volume is probably turned down on here. And so you can tap that once and it'll shut the screen off, and tap it again and it'll bring it back up. So there you have it.